The sound of Emma Sutherland's voice carried across the dusty main street of Tucson, Arizona Territory, on that scorching afternoon in July of 1873, and every person within earshot stopped what they were doing to stare at the young woman who dared speak words that powerful men wanted buried. She stood on the weathered boardwalk outside the general store, her dark hair pulled back in a simple bun, her calico dress modest but clean, and her green eyes blazing with a determination that made even the hardest men uncomfortable. "Mayor Thornton has been stealing from this town for 2 years," Emma said, her voice steady despite the trembling in her hands. "I have seen the ledgers. I have proof that he has taken money meant for the schoolhouse, for the church, for the widow's fund. He lines his pockets while children go without books and families go hungry." The crowd that had gathered murmured, some nodding in agreement, others shaking their heads in warning. Emma had worked as a clerk in the mayor's office for 6 months, a position she had been grateful to receive after her father died in a mining accident the previous winter. Her mother had passed when Emma was just 15, leaving her alone in the world at 22 with nothing but her integrity and her sharp mind. Mayor Thornton himself emerged from the saloon across the street, his face red with fury or whiskey or both. He was a thick man with graying hair and small eyes that glittered with meanness. Behind him came Sheriff Dawson, a tall man who had once been decent but had long since sold whatever honor he possessed. "You lying witch," Thornton spat, stomping toward Emma. "You stole from my office, invaded my privacy, and now you spread vicious lies about me." Emma held her ground, though her heart hammered against her ribs. "They are not lies, and you know it. I have copies of the documents. I can prove everything I am saying." "Where are these supposed documents?" Sheriff Dawson asked, his hand resting casually on his gun belt. Emma's stomach dropped. She had hidden the papers in her small room at the boarding house, tucked beneath a loose floorboard. But the look in Dawson's eyes told her that her room had likely already been searched. Thornton had probably sent men the moment Emma had started speaking. "That does not matter," Emma said, forcing strength into her voice. "The truth is the truth whether I have papers or not. Ask the people of this town. They know something has been wrong. They know the money has gone missing." "What I know," Thornton said, moving closer until Emma could smell the whiskey on his breath, "is that you are a liar and a thief. Sheriff, I want this woman arrested." "On what charges?" Emma demanded. "Theft, slander, and disturbing the peace will do for a start," Thornton said with a cruel smile. The crowd shifted uneasily. Several women looked at Emma with sympathy, but no one spoke up. Fear was a powerful silencer in a town where the mayor controlled jobs, land, and justice. "I will not arrest her," Sheriff Dawson said, and for a moment Emma felt a flutter of hope. "But I want her out of Tucson by sundown. If she is still here after dark, she will be arrested and held in jail until the circuit judge comes through next month." "You cannot do that," Emma protested. "I have done nothing wrong. I have nowhere to go." "You should have thought of that before you decided to bite the hand that fed you," Thornton said. He turned to address the crowd. "Let this be a lesson to anyone else who thinks about spreading lies and causing trouble in my town. We do not tolerate it. Now everyone get back to your business." The crowd dispersed quickly, people averting their eyes as they passed Emma. Only Mrs. Henderson, the elderly woman who ran the boarding house, paused long enough to press a small cloth bag into Emma's hands. "Some food for the road," she whispered. "I am sorry, dear. I believe you, but I cannot afford to lose my business by helping you more than this." Emma nodded, tears burning in her eyes. She understood. Everyone had to survive, and standing up to power often meant sacrificing everything. She returned to the boarding house under the watchful eye of one of Dawson's deputies. and packed her few belongings into a worn carpet bag. Everything she owned in the world fit into that single bag. 2 dresses, some undergarments, her mother's Bible, and a small tintype photograph of her parents on their wedding day. The documents she had copied so carefully were gone, just as she had suspected. Someone had torn up the floorboards and taken them. By 4 o'clock that afternoon, Emma stood at the edge of Tucson with her carpetbag in one hand and Mrs. Henderson's food bundle in the other, staring out at the vast expanse of desert and scrubland that stretched in every direction. She had no horse, no wagon, no idea where to go. The nearest town was at least 20 miles away, and she would never make it on foot before nightfall. She started walking north along the rutted road, the July sun beating down mercilessly. Sweat soaked through her dress, and dust coated her face and hands. She tried not to think about snakes or scorpions or the very real possibility that she might die out here alone. She had spoken the truth, and sometimes the truth cost everything. An hour passed, then 2. Emma's feet ached in her worn boots, and her throat felt like sandpaper despite sipping carefully from the small canteen Mrs. Henderson had included in the food bundle. The sun was beginning its descent toward the western horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold, when she heard the sound of hoofbeats behind her. She turned, shading her eyes against the glare, and saw a lone rider approaching on a buckskin horse. Her first instinct was fear, that Thornton had sent someone after her to make sure she never made it anywhere to tell her story. But as the rider drew closer, she could see he was not one of the men from Tucson. He was tall in the saddle, wearing a dusty black hat, dark pants, and a shirt that might once have been white but was now the color of desert sand. A gun belt sat low on his hips, and a bedroll and saddlebags were tied behind his saddle. His face was shadowed by his hat brim, but Emma could see a strong jaw darkened by several days of stubble. The rider slowed as he approached, then stopped his horse a respectful distance away. He tipped his hat back, and Emma saw eyes the color of a summer sky studying her with curiosity and something that might have been concern. "Afternoon, miss," he said, his voice deep and smooth. "You look like you could use some help." Emma straightened her shoulders, trying to look less desperate than she felt. "I am fine, thank you." The man glanced at the empty road ahead, then back at Emma. "You planning to walk all the way to wherever you are going, if I have to?" He dismounted in one fluid motion and walked his horse closer, moving slowly as if approaching a skittish colt. Up close, Emma could see he was perhaps 27 or 28, with sun-weathered skin and the lean, rangy build of someone who spent most of his life outdoors. There was something honest in his face, something that made Emma want to trust him despite her circumstances. "My name is Yates Xavier," he said. "I just came from Tucson, and I heard some talk about a young woman who got herself banished for speaking truth to power." "That would not happen to be you, would it?" Emma felt her cheeks burn. "Word travels fast." "Small town and people like to talk," Yates said. He studied her for a long moment. "For what it is worth, the folks doing the talking seem to think you were right about Mayor Thornton." They were just too scared to say so where the sheriff could hear. "Their fear does not change my situation," Emma said bitterly. "I still have nowhere to go." Yates was quiet for a moment, then said, "I have a ranch about 30 miles north of here, just across into the Gila River Valley. It is not much, but it is honest land earned with honest work. I could use help with the place, and you could use a roof over your head. I would pay fair wages, and you would have your own space in the house. Everything proper and respectable." Emma stared at him, hardly daring to believe what she was hearing. "You do not even know me. Why would you help me?" "Because someone helped me once when I needed it," Yates said simply. And because I have been in Tucson enough times to know that Thornton is crooked as a dog's hind leg. Anyone brave enough to stand up to him deserves better than dying of thirst in the desert. Emma felt tears prick her eyes again. I cannot pay you for the ride. I am not asking for payment, Yates said. I am offering you a job and a chance to start over. What you do with it is up to you. She looked at him, trying to read his face for any sign of deception or ulterior motive. But all she saw was genuine concern and something else, a quiet strength that made her feel safe for the first time since she had stood on that boardwalk and spoken words that had cost her everything. All right, Emma said quietly. Thank you. Yates smiled, and Emma was struck by how it transformed his face, softening the hard edges and making him look younger. Can you ride? Yes, though it has been a while. Then we will ride together. It will be full dark soon, and I would rather not camp out here if we can make it home before midnight. He helped Emma up onto the buckskin, then swung up behind her with easy grace. Emma felt strange sitting so close to a man she had just met, feeling the warmth of him at her back and the strength of his arms on either side of her as he took up the reins. But there was nothing improper in the way he held himself, keeping a respectful distance as much as possible while still keeping them both secure on the horse. Hold on, Yates said, and urged the buckskin into a steady trot. They rode in silence as the sun sank below the horizon, and the stars began to emerge in the darkening sky. The desert cooled quickly once the sun was gone, and Emma was grateful for the warmth of Yates behind her. She found herself relaxing slightly, lulled by the rhythmic movement of the horse and the quiet strength of the man who had appeared like an answer to a prayer she had not known how to pray. Can I ask you something? Yates said after they had been riding for perhaps an hour. Yes. Why did you do it? You must have known what would happen if you spoke up against Thornton. Emma was quiet for a moment, gathering her thoughts. My father taught me that the truth matters. He said that if good people stay silent in the face of evil, then evil wins. I knew Thornton was stealing from people who had nothing, from widows and orphans and families who were already struggling. I could not stay silent and still live with myself. That took courage, or foolishness, Emma said with a bitter laugh. I lost my job, my home, and any hope of a future in Tucson. Some might say that was a poor trade for telling the truth. Some might say that, Yates agreed. But I think your father was right. The truth matters, and courage is not the absence of fear. It is doing the right thing even when you are afraid. Emma turned her head slightly to look at him. You sound like you speak from experience. I do, Yates said, but he did not elaborate, and Emma did not press him. They rode on through the darkness, stopping once to rest the horse and let him drink from a small creek. Yates shared some jerky and hardtack from his saddlebags, and they sat in companionable silence while the horse grazed on the sparse grass along the creek bank. Tell me about your ranch, Emma said, wanting to break the silence and also curious about what kind of life awaited her. Yates leaned back against a rock, his face barely visible in the starlight. It is not much yet. 200 acres that I bought 3 years ago with money I saved from working cattle drives. There is a house, small but solid, that I built myself. A barn, a corral, and about 30 head of cattle. I have been working to build it up slowly, doing everything right and legal. No wife? Emma asked, then immediately felt her face flush. I am sorry, that was inappropriate. It is a fair question given the circumstances, Yates said, and she could hear the smile in his voice. No wife. I was engaged once, back in Texas, but she decided she would rather marry a banker than wait for a cowboy to make something of himself. That was 5 years ago, and I have been on my own since. I am sorry. I am not, Yates said. If she had really loved me, she would have waited. It hurt at the time, but now I see it was for the best. I want someone who believes in me, who wants to build a life together through hard work and honest effort. Someone who is not afraid to stand up for what is right, even when it is hard. He stood and offered Emma his hand to help her up. We should keep moving. We still have a few hours of riding ahead of us. They reached the ranch just after midnight, as Yates had predicted. Emma could not see much in the darkness, but she could make out the shape of a house and barn silhouetted against the starlit sky. A dog began barking as they approached, and Yates called out a greeting. "That is Rex," he said. "Best cattle dog in the territory, though he is getting on in years." An older dog, mostly black with some gray around his muzzle, trotted up to greet them, his tail wagging cautiously. Yates dismounted and helped Emma down, then introduced her to the dog, who sniffed her hand and then seemed to accept her presence. Yates led the buckskin to the barn and took care of unsaddling and brushing him down while Emma stood in the doorway, swaying slightly with exhaustion. When he finished, he picked up her carpet bag and led her toward the house. "It is not fancy," he warned as he opened the door, "but it is clean and dry." He lit a kerosene lamp, and warm light filled a single large room that served as kitchen, dining area, and sitting room. A stone fireplace dominated one wall, and simple but well-made furniture filled the space. Everything was tidy and organized, the home of someone who took pride in his surroundings despite their simplicity. "There are 2 bedrooms," Yates said, pointing to 2 doors on the far wall. "You can have that one. I built this house thinking I would have a family someday, so each room has its own space. You will have privacy and a door that locks from the inside." He showed her to a small bedroom that held a bed with a simple quilt, a dresser, a washstand with a pitcher and basin, and a small window with curtains. It was more than Emma had dared hope for. "Thank you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "You have been incredibly kind to a stranger." Yates met her eyes, and Emma felt something shift between them, an awareness that had not been there before. "You are not a stranger anymore," he said quietly. "You are someone who works for me and lives under my roof. That makes you family in my book, and I take care of family." He left her then, closing the door softly behind him. Emma sank down onto the bed and finally let herself cry, releasing all the fear and anger and grief of the past few days. But mixed in with those tears was relief and gratitude, and the tentative hope that perhaps her life was not over after all. Morning came bright and warm through the bedroom window. Emma woke disoriented for a moment before remembering where she was. She washed her face and hands in the basin, changed into her other dress, and ventured out into the main room. Yates was already up, cooking something over the fire that smelled heavenly. He looked up when she emerged and smiled. "Morning, I hope you slept well." "Better than I have in weeks," Emma admitted. "Good. Sit down and have some breakfast. Then I will show you around and we can talk about what kind of work you would be comfortable doing." They ate together, a simple meal of eggs, bacon, and biscuits that Yates had clearly made himself. Emma was impressed by his competence in the kitchen, though she supposed a man living alone had to learn to cook or starve. After breakfast, Yates gave her a tour of the property. In the daylight, Emma could see that the ranch was indeed modest but well maintained. The house was small but solidly built of adobe and wood, with a covered porch that would provide shade in the summer heat. The barn was large enough for several horses and storage for hay and equipment. A vegetable garden struggled in one corner of the yard, and Emma made a mental note that this was something she could help with. The cattle grazed in the distance, scattered across the scrubland, with the Gila River providing water and the mountains rising blue and purple on the horizon. It was beautiful in a stark, harsh way that Emma found herself drawn to. "What do you need help with most?" Emma asked as they walked back toward the house, Rex trotting along beside them. "Honestly, just about everything," Yates said with a laugh. "I have been trying to do all the work myself, and there are not enough hours in the day. The garden needs attention. The house could use a woman's touch. I need help keeping track of supplies and expenses, maybe writing letters to potential buyers for the cattle. If you can cook, that would be a blessing because I am tired of my own cooking. And if you can ride and are not afraid of cattle, I could use an extra pair of hands when I am moving the herd or checking on them." "I can do all of that," Emma said. "I am not afraid of hard work." "I can see that," Yates said. "Anyone who stands up to a crooked politician is not afraid of much." They worked together that first day, falling into an easy rhythm. Emma took over the cooking and started planning how to revive the struggling garden. She also helped Yates inventory his supplies and set up a simple bookkeeping system to track expenses and income. Yates was clearly intelligent but had no patience for paperwork, and he seemed relieved to have someone else handle that aspect of the ranch. Over dinner that evening, they talked more about their lives. Emma learned that Yates had grown up in Texas, the youngest of 4 brothers. His father had been a rancher, but there had not been enough land for all the boys, so Yates had struck out on his own at 18. He had worked cattle drives, saved his money, and eventually made his way to Arizona Territory, where land was still available for those willing to work hard and brave the challenges of the desert. "What about you?" Yates asked. "How did you end up in Tucson?" Emma told him about her parents, how they had come to Arizona Territory when she was 12, hoping to make their fortune in mining. Her father had been a good man but not a lucky one. He had worked hard for years with little to show for it, and when he died in the mining accident, he left Emma with nothing but debts. "Mayor Thornton offered me the clerk position," Emma said. "I thought he was being kind, helping a young woman in need. I did not realize at first that he wanted someone grateful and desperate, someone who would not ask questions about what she was recording in the ledgers. But you did ask questions." "I did," Emma said. "And when I realized what was happening, I could not stay silent. Maybe that was naive of me. Maybe I should have just kept my head down and been grateful for the job." "No," Yates said firmly. "You did the right thing. Thornton deserves to be exposed for what he is." "That does not change the fact that he won," Emma said bitterly. "He is still in power, still stealing, and I am the one who was driven out of town." "For now," Yates said, "but the truth has a way of coming out eventually, and in the meantime you have a place here for as long as you want it." Emma looked at him across the table, at his honest face and kind eyes, and felt something warm unfurl in her chest. "Thank you, Yates. I do not know how I can ever repay you for what you have done for me." "Just be yourself," he said. "That is payment enough." The days turned into weeks, and Emma settled into life on the ranch. She found herself genuinely enjoying the work, the sense of purpose and accomplishment that came from tending the garden, caring for the animals, and helping Yates build his dream. They worked together easily, and Emma was struck by how different this was from any other job she had held. Yates treated her as an equal partner rather than hired help. He asked for her opinions on decisions about the ranch, listened when she had suggestions, and thanked her sincerely for her contributions. He was also a gentleman in every sense of the word, never making her uncomfortable or overstepping proper boundaries, but also showing her small kindnesses that made her feel valued and respected. He brought her wildflowers from the desert when he found them during his rides. He made sure she had time to rest and was not working too hard. He sat with her in the evenings on the porch, talking about everything and nothing while the stars came out and the desert cooled. Emma found herself thinking about him more than she probably should. She noticed the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled, the strength in his hands as he worked, the sound of his laugh when she said something that amused him. She caught herself watching him when he did not know she was looking, admiring the way he moved with easy confidence, the way he treated every living thing with respect and care. She tried to tell herself it was just gratitude, that she was confusing appreciation for attraction. But as the weeks passed, she had to admit that what she felt for Yates Xavier was far more than gratitude. One evening in late August, nearly 6 weeks after Emma had arrived at the ranch, they were sitting on the porch after dinner when Yates turned to her with a serious expression. "Emma, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Are you happy here?" Emma looked at him in surprise. "Yes, very much so. Why do you ask?" Yates was quiet for a moment, seeming to struggle with his words. "Because I need to know if you are planning to stay or if you see this as temporary until something better comes along." "There is nothing better," Emma said honestly. "This is the happiest I have been in years, maybe ever. I love the work. I love this place, and I—" She trailed off, not quite brave enough to finish the sentence. "And?" Yates prompted gently. Emma took a deep breath, remembering her father's words about the truth mattering. "And I have come to care for you a great deal, more than is probably appropriate for an employee." Yates stood and moved to the porch railing, his back to her. Emma's heart sank, certain she had made a terrible mistake. But then he turned back to face her, and the expression on his face made her breath catch. "Emma, I need to be honest with you," he said. "The reason I offered to bring you here that day was not entirely altruistic. Yes, I wanted to help you, and yes, I admired your courage. But there was also something about you that drew me to you from the first moment I saw you standing in that road, so determined and brave despite being afraid. I have been fighting what I feel because I did not want you to think I expected anything from you in return for giving you a place to stay." He moved closer, kneeling in front of her chair so their eyes were level. "But the truth is, I am falling in love with you, Emma Sutherland. I love your courage and your integrity. I love how hard you work and how you see beauty in this harsh land. I love talking with you and working beside you. I love the way you laugh and the way you are not afraid to speak your mind. I know we have not known each other long, but I know what I feel, and I needed you to know it too." Emma felt tears streaming down her face, but they were tears of joy. "I am falling in love with you too," she said. "I have been trying not to because I was afraid you were just being kind, that you did not feel the same way. But I cannot help it, Yates. You are everything I never knew I was looking for." Yates reached up and gently wiped the tears from her cheeks. "Then we are both fools for waiting so long to say something. Perhaps we both needed time to be sure," Emma said. "I am sure now," Yates said. "I want you to stay here not as an employee but as my partner in every sense of the word. I want to court you properly with respect and honor. I want to build this ranch with you and eventually, if you will have me, marry you and build a family with you." Emma laughed through her tears. "You are asking me to court you." "I am," Yates said seriously. "I know it is fast, and I know we still have a lot to learn about each other. But I also know that what we have is real and worth fighting for. What do you say, Emma? Will you let me court you?" "Yes," Emma said. "Yes, absolutely yes." Yates stood and pulled Emma to her feet, then took her hands in his. "I want to do this right," he said. "I want to give you the romance and respect you deserve." Then, slowly and gently, he leaned in and kissed her. It was soft and sweet, a promise of more to come, and Emma felt her heart soar. The months that followed were some of the happiest of Emma's life. Yates courted her with old-fashioned courtesy and romance, bringing her flowers, taking her on rides through the beautiful desert landscape, and spending hours talking with her about their dreams and hopes for the future. They worked together on the ranch, building it up slowly but surely, and Emma felt a deep satisfaction in creating something lasting and good. They also faced challenges together. In September, a group of rustlers tried to steal some of Yates's cattle. He and Emma worked together to drive them off, with Emma proving herself capable with a rifle when needed. In October, a flash flood threatened the ranch, and they spent a terrifying night reinforcing the barn and moving the cattle to higher ground. Through it all, they grew closer, learning to rely on each other and trust in their partnership. Word reached them occasionally from Tucson. Mrs. Henderson sent a letter in November saying that several people had come forward with more evidence of Mayor Thornton's corruption. The territorial governor had opened an investigation, and it looked like Thornton would finally face justice. Emma was glad to hear it, though the news did not affect her the way it might have months earlier. She had moved on, built a new life, and found something far more valuable than revenge. On a cold December evening, with snow dusting the distant mountains, Yates asked Emma to marry him properly. He got down on one knee on the porch where they had first confessed their feelings, and presented her with a simple gold ring that had belonged to his grandmother. "Emma Sutherland, you are the bravest, kindest, most wonderful woman I have ever known," he said. "You make me want to be a better man. You have turned this house into a home and this ranch into our dream. Will you do me the honor of becoming my wife?" "Yes," Emma said without hesitation. "Yes, with all my heart." They were married in January of 1874 in a small ceremony in the town of Florence, the nearest settlement to their ranch. Mrs. Henderson came all the way from Tucson to attend, along with several of Yates's friends and neighbors who had come to know and respect Emma over the past months. It was a simple wedding, but it was perfect, exactly what both of them wanted. Their first year of marriage was not without challenges. The ranch continued to demand hard work and long hours. There were droughts and storms, sick cattle and equipment that broke at the worst possible times. But through it all, Emma and Yates faced everything together, their love growing stronger with each obstacle they overcame. Emma discovered she was pregnant in the spring of 1875, and Yates was overjoyed. He became even more protective of her, though Emma refused to stop working entirely, insisting that she was pregnant, not fragile. Their first child, a son they named James after Yates's father, was born in November of that year. He was healthy and strong, with his father's blue eyes and his mother's dark hair. Yates was a devoted father, taking to parenthood with the same dedication he brought to everything else. Emma loved watching him with their son, seeing the gentle way he held the baby and the wonder in his eyes as he watched James grow and change. The ranch continued to prosper. By 1876, they had expanded their herd to 50 head of cattle and had hired 2 ranch hands to help with the work. Emma managed the household and the business side of things, while Yates oversaw the physical labor and cattle management. They made a good team, each contributing their strengths and supporting the other's weaknesses. In 1877, Emma gave birth to their second child, a daughter they named Ruth after Emma's mother. She was tiny and fierce, with a will that made both parents laugh and shake their heads. James adored his baby sister, and Emma often found him trying to help take care of her, bringing her toys and patting her head with gentle 2-year-old hands. News came in 1878 that Mayor Thornton had finally been convicted of fraud and embezzlement. He had been sentenced to 5 years in territorial prison, and a new mayor had been elected in Tucson. Mrs. Henderson wrote that many people in town spoke of Emma with respect, saying she had been brave to stand up to corruption when no one else would. Emma read the letter with satisfaction, but without bitterness. She had found peace with her past and was too focused on her present and future to dwell on old grievances. Yates had given her not just a home, but a chance to build a life of purpose and meaning. She had repaid him by giving her whole heart and by being the partner he needed and deserved. As the years passed, the ranch continued to grow. By 1880, they had 100 head of cattle and had purchased an additional 100 acres of land. They had also built a larger house to accommodate their growing family. Emma had given birth to their third child, another son named Samuel, in 1879, and was pregnant again in 1880. Their fourth child, a daughter named Grace, was born in early 1881. She was followed by another son, Thomas, in 1883, and finally another daughter, Elizabeth, in 1885. 6 children in 10 years kept Emma busy, but she would not have traded it for anything. Each child was a blessing, and watching them grow up on the ranch, learning to work hard and value integrity, filled her with pride. Yates was an amazing father to all their children. He taught the boys to ride and rope and care for the cattle. He was gentle and patient with the girls, teaching them that they were every bit as capable as their brothers. All the children learned to work hard, to value honesty, and to stand up for what was right, lessons that both Emma and Yates taught through example. On their 10th wedding anniversary in January of 1884, Yates and Emma stood on the porch of their home, watching the sun set over the land they had built together. The children were inside with a hired girl who helped Emma with the housework now, and for a rare moment they were alone. "Do you ever regret it?" Yates asked, slipping his arm around Emma's waist. "Leaving Tucson, coming here with me?" Emma leaned into him, feeling the solid warmth of his presence, the strength that had never failed her in all their years together. "Not for a single moment," she said. "You gave me everything I could have wanted and so much more than I ever dared hope for." "You gave me everything too," Yates said, kissing the top of her head. "You made me believe in love again. You made this ranch a home. You gave me children and partnership and a reason to be grateful every single day." "I am glad I spoke the truth that day in Tucson," Emma said. "Even though it cost me everything I had at the time, it led me to you. It led me to this life. I would do it all again in a heartbeat." "You are the bravest person I know," Yates said, "and I am the luckiest man alive." They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the stars begin to appear in the darkening sky. Emma thought about that day in July of 1873, when she had stood on the boardwalk and spoken words that had changed her life forever. She had been banned from town for speaking truth, but a cowboy had ridden in and taken her home with pride. And in doing so, he had given her not just shelter but love, not just safety but purpose, not just a house but a home. The years continued to pass in a blur of work and love and family. The children grew into capable young adults who inherited their parents' work ethic and integrity. James, the eldest, showed a natural talent for ranching and became his father's right hand in managing the herd. Ruth inherited her mother's sharp mind for business and took over much of the bookkeeping and correspondence as she got older. The ranch, which they had officially named the Xavier Ranch, became known throughout the territory for quality cattle and fair dealing. Yates and Emma had built a reputation for honesty and hard work that made people want to do business with them. It was everything they had worked for and dreamed of. In 1890, Yates and Emma celebrated their 16th wedding anniversary. Their eldest son, James, was almost 15, a strong young man who was already taller than his father. Ruth was 13, smart as a whip and beautiful in the way her mother had been at that age. Samuel was 11, with a talent for gentling horses. Grace was 9, Thomas was 7, and little Elizabeth was 5. "We have been blessed beyond measure," Emma said one evening as she and Yates sat on the porch, their favorite spot to talk and watch the sunset. It had become a tradition over the years, this quiet time together at the end of each day. "We have," Yates agreed. "Sometimes I still cannot believe that beautiful, brave woman I found on the road outside Tucson agreed to marry me." Emma laughed. "I was the lucky one." "You saved my life that day, Yates, in every way that matters." "We saved each other," Yates said, taking her hand. "You gave me purpose and love. You made me believe that good things could happen, that taking a chance on someone could lead to everything." The summer of 1891 brought both joy and sorrow. Emma's old friend Mrs. Henderson passed away at the age of 78. Emma traveled to Tucson for the funeral, her first time back in the town since that fateful day 18 years earlier. The town had changed significantly. Thornton was long gone, and a new generation of leaders had taken over. Several people recognized Emma and spoke to her with respect, acknowledging that she had been right all those years ago. She visited her parents' graves, something she had not been able to do when she was banished, and made peace with the past. Then she returned home to the ranch, grateful for the life she had built and the man who had made it possible. Their children began to leave home as they reached adulthood. James married at 21 and started his own small ranch nearby with help from Yates and Emma. Ruth went to San Francisco to study bookkeeping and business, something that would have been impossible for most women of her generation. But Yates and Emma had always encouraged their children to pursue their dreams. As the 1890s progressed, Yates and Emma found themselves entering a new phase of life. They were grandparents now, with James and his wife welcoming their first child in 1895. The ranch was well established and successful, with their remaining children helping to manage it. They had more time to simply be together, to enjoy the life they had built. On a warm evening in June of 1899, Yates and Emma celebrated their 25th wedding anniversary. All their children came home for the celebration, along with grandchildren and friends and neighbors. It was a joyful day filled with food and laughter and music. As the party wound down and the sun began to set, Yates led Emma away from the crowd to their favorite spot on the porch. They sat together, his arm around her shoulders, her head resting on his chest, exactly as they had done thousands of times over the years. 25 years, Emma said softly. "It has gone by so fast." "The best years of my life," Yates said. "Every single one of them." "Mine too," Emma said. "Do you know what I was thinking about today?" "What?" "That day you found me on the road. I was so lost and scared, and then you appeared like an answer to a prayer. You offered me a chance when no one else would. You saw something in me worth saving." "I saw someone brave enough to stand up for what was right," Yates said. "Someone who valued truth over comfort. I knew then that you were someone special, someone I wanted to know better." "Did you really fall in love with me right away?" Emma asked, teasing gently. Yates chuckled. "Maybe not right away, but close. By the time we reached the ranch that first night, I knew you were going to change my life. I just did not know how much." "We changed each other's lives," Emma said. "We built something beautiful together, Yates. Not just this ranch, but our family, our love. I am so grateful for every day we have had. And we will have many more," Yates said. "Growing old together, watching our grandchildren grow, enjoying the life we have built. I want every remaining day of my life to be spent with you, Emma." "And mine with you," Emma said, lifting her face for a kiss. As they sat together watching the stars come out over the Arizona desert, Emma reflected on the long journey that had brought them to this moment. She had been banned from town for speaking truth, but that banishment had led her to the greatest truth of all. That love, real and honest and true, was worth any sacrifice. Yates had ridden in and taken her home with pride, but she had given him just as much in return. Together, They had built not just a successful ranch but a life of meaning and purpose, a love that had weathered storms and grown stronger with each passing year. The new century came in 1900, bringing with it changes and challenges. But Yates and Emma faced them together, as they had faced everything for nearly 3 decades. They watched Arizona territory continue to develop and grow, knowing they had been part of building something lasting. Their golden years were spent surrounded by family and the land they loved. Yates remained strong and active well into his 60s, still riding out to check on the cattle and help his sons manage the ranch. Emma kept the household running smoothly and delighted in her growing number of grandchildren, teaching them to read and sharing stories of the old days. They celebrated their 40th wedding anniversary in 1914, surrounded by 6 children, 17 grandchildren, and even a few great-grandchildren. It was a testament to the life they had built together, the legacy of love and integrity they had passed down to the next generations. On a quiet evening in the spring of 1916, Yates and Emma sat on their porch as they had done countless times before. They were older now, with gray hair and lined faces, but the love between them was as strong as it had been in those early days when they were first discovering each other. "You remember what you said to me the night you asked to court me?" Emma asked, holding Yates's weathered hand in her own. "I said a lot of things that night," Yates said with a smile. "Which particular thing are you thinking of? You said you wanted someone who believed in you, who wanted to build a life together through hard work and honest effort. Someone who was not afraid to stand up for what was right, even when it was hard. And I found all that and more in you," Yates said. "You have been my partner in every sense of the word, Emma. My best friend, my love, the mother of my children, my companion through all the years." "I could not have asked for more. Nor could I," Emma said. "You gave me a chance when I had lost everything. You saw value in me when others saw only a troublemaker. You loved me for who I was, not what I could do for you. You have been my home, Yates, far more than any building or piece of land could ever be." They sat in comfortable silence as the sun set, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and pink and gold. The desert spread out before them, harsh and beautiful, exactly like the life they had built together. It had not always been easy, but it had always been worth it. Their children and grandchildren continued to visit regularly, and the Xavier Ranch remained a gathering place for the family, a testament to what could be built through hard work, integrity, and love. The values that Yates and Emma had lived by, the truth they had both held dear, had been passed down through the generations. In 1918, Arizona finally achieved statehood, something Yates and Emma had waited decades to see. They attended the celebrations in Tucson, now a thriving city that bore little resemblance to the small town Emma had been banished from 45 years earlier. No one there remembered the young woman who had spoken truth to power, but Emma remembered, and she was proud of the person she had been and the choice she had made. As they grew older still, their children urged them to slow down, to let others handle the work of the ranch. But both Yates and Emma remained active as long as they were able, unwilling to give up the life they had built together. They spent their days working in the garden, reading together on the porch, taking slow rides through the land they loved, and simply being together. Yates passed away peacefully in his sleep in the spring of 1923 at the age of 77. Emma held his hand as he slipped away, her heart breaking even as she was grateful for the 50 years they had shared. He had been her rock, her love, her partner in everything, and losing him felt like losing part of herself. But even in her grief, Emma could not regret a single moment of their life together. They had built something beautiful and lasting. They had raised 6 wonderful children who were now raising children of their own. They had created a legacy of integrity and love that would continue long after they were gone. Emma lived for another 7 years, surrounded by her family on the ranch that she and Yates had built together. She passed away in 1930 at the age of 79, having lived a long and fulfilling life. Her last words were reported to be about Yates, about how she would see him again soon, and how she could not wait to sit on the porch with him once more. She was buried next to Yates on a hill overlooking the ranch, exactly where they had both requested. Their graves were marked with simple headstones that bore their names, their dates, and a single inscription: partners in love and life together forever. The Xavier Ranch continued to operate for generations after their deaths, remaining in the family and continuing to bear the stamp of integrity and hard work that its founders had established. The story of how Yates and Emma met became family legend, told and retold to children and grandchildren, a reminder that sometimes the worst moments of our lives can lead to the greatest blessings. Emma had been banned from town for speaking truth, but in losing everything, she had gained everything that truly mattered. Yates had ridden in and taken her home with pride, but she had given him a home in her heart that had lasted until his final breath. Together, they had proven that love built on respect, integrity, and shared values could weather any storm and create a legacy that would endure long after they were gone. Their love story became a testament to the power of speaking truth, the importance of standing up for what was right even when it cost everything, and the beautiful things that could be built when two people committed to building a life together. From that dusty road outside Tucson to the thriving ranch that bore their name, from those first tentative moments of courtship to 50 years of partnership and love, Emma Sutherland and Yates Xavier had lived a life that proved love, real love, was always worth fighting for.